All right, this meeting will come to order. This is a regular meeting of the Environmental Commission of the Borough of Fairhaven. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this meeting on December 11th, 2024 is available by call-in phone number or through Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions, comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of the meeting was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and the Star Ledger on January 26, 2024. Posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Environmental Commission Secretary is directed to include this statement in the minutes of the meeting. All right, standard pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gary, I hope you said it along with us.
Yes. Did you hear me?
Yep, you are an active participant.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, do you want to help with the roll call, please?
Sean Bailey,
Present?
Jesse Murray's absent, Anna Antonin, absent, William Dorner, absent, Kelly Flanagan,
Here, present.
Susan Globus,
Present.
Gary Patterson,
Present.
Beth Peters is absent, Councilman Olson is absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you. We have as many guests as we do commissioners. Thank you guys for braving the weather tonight. I love your commitment to our agenda. Let's be brief if we can, and spend time on the things that we're spending time on.
Great.
Are there any updates on the ERI?
Yes.
Worth talking about?
We,
Can you go back to the minutes?
oh, the approval.
Sorry, I did. I'm eager. The minutes were circulated last week. Were there any questions or concerns, revisions?
Oh, no.
Can I get a motion to?
Motion to, second.
Second, very nice.
Approved.
All right,
Third.
and I,
Aye.
Aye.
we have approved the meeting minutes from November. All right, so let's jump into current business. Top of the list is ERI revision updates.
Yes, so we have been receiving great input from interested and knowledgeable parties. And I thank everyone who has done that. We're expecting some more, so we're pushing this over into January, I think is now our target date. And I would just ask all the members of the EC who have gone through the document and said this needs updating to please update it. Because I'm okay as an editor, but I'm not the source of knowledge for many of these things. So if you caught it and you know the source, could you at least cite the source?
Okay,
would
so
be
people that
helpful.
have made comments in there, you want them to come back and
Yes.
actually fix their,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly, because they have the knowledge to identify it's out of date.
So Susan, do we have access to that or is?
We have it in Google Docs form and.
Yeah,
Share it with-
I'll share it again.
Yeah, share it, we'll share it. Is that helpful?
yeah, I just don't remember how to find it. Like to go back in and I know I went in and made some comments a while ago, so.
I think you did. I think Jesse said to just use suggested comments on the drop-down menu for any
Yeah.
additional comments.
Okay.
Okay,
I think so.
Yeah,
would you say that there are a large volume of comments to still be addressed, or is it whittling it down to like
I
the
don't think
last handful?
I don't think so. We're still waiting for some input from some of the volunteer committees or,
Okay,
so I don't know what the volume of that is yet. But just from the council members who know that there's info that needs updating, it would be really helpful to know what that source would be.
okay, so, which, volunteer organizations are we waiting for?
I think the natural.
I know,
They're actively
Robin was,
working on it.
yeah, Robin said she's working on it, I saw her today.
I think I thought maybe already had it, so I think it should be any day now.
Yeah.
Great.
Anything else?
Fine.
Susan?
So do you need any background for the comments that I gave you?
No,
Because it's.
no, most of them will just change road to avenue and such. No, I don't. I incorporated.
And there were a couple of things though that I added in about the dumps in town.
That was
But
addressed.
that's only because I just know it, I have no way to prove it.
Yeah. I entered your comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and did I hear you say council members had been in there too, writing input? That's great. Okay,
Yeah, it's great.
all right.
I'm sorry, commission members, not council members.
Oh,
Commission,
us. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So we'll come back to it in January. Next one on the new business or current business is the Bird Sanctuary Committee. I understand that still hasn't met yet, so we'll move on to the next one. Carter Pond Committee update, that's through me. I guess it's just updating you guys. In October, we had 2 open forums, collected some resident feedback, provided some additional insight into what's been going on with the pond. Last month, we had just a committee meeting to go through that feedback and to start to look at some of the expert advice that we've been given to date. And start to look at some alternatives. We've split up into some, even within our committee, we split up into some subgroups. So we have a couple of people looking at alternatives to dredging. So not dredging, but things that are like dredging that help pick up the muck or dissolve the muck that's on the bottom to help increase the depth of the water. 2 councilwomen that are on the committee, Howie and Michael, they are going to look a lot deeper into the different grants and funding sources that are our purse, and how they can be layered in to fund some of these activities. We are still trying to meet with other service providers and other experts to continue to kind of round out our input, so we're not kind of getting it all from just one source. And that's been a little bit tricky getting people, like contractors, almost like getting a plumber scheduled. It's been tricky to get them scheduled and agree to a time and all that. So that's what we're working on. So it's kind of like a couple of substreams that are working in parallel. We're getting back together next week. Hopefully, if we've all got the time. Well, we'll go to the end next week, depending on who's there. And just have an update on how that's going. But probably have a little bit more of a workshop type of event in January, February to just start to pull all those substreams together. Kelly, anything you want to add?
No, I think it's just, that's a good update, and just a lot of like funding and other things, discussing about other things we could do just in education wise for people, not just around the town, that watershed, but just, all around town too.
Great,
But no, I think that's it.
cool. Next one on current business is the De Normandy Waterfront Park. So if you remember a couple months ago, we wanted to make sure that the information around the design, that the survey itself was up to date or still relevant. So John and I met up one morning before Thanksgiving and we took his little, it's like a GPS device, it's really powerful. And so we mapped out the upper bank and we mapped out the lower bank, and we mapped out the two tide heights. So he's been putting, now it's on him, he's putting that into a thing, yeah, a map, a system, I can pump that out. So I haven't seen the results. But the idea was to take that and compare it to the survey, and if they're still pretty close, we're good to go. Generally though, the project itself has been handed over to the borough, so it sits with Chris. It sits with engineering to look through the. Oh, no.
Chris, you lost it.
I think just take the remote and say, okay,
Yeah, let's just leave it to the update. Fingers crossed.
your update's done.
Gary, are you still there?
Gary's on that one.
Okay, that's probably gonna do what this is doing.
It's just the display, but you've got everyone over
Yeah.
there.
We have
You'll
the
take
finest
I
technology.
see you.
Yeah.
Gary.
I see. I hear.
Okay, great. All right, it's gonna come back on, and looks like,
Yeah, so hopefully we are still within like, you know, a good range of what the original survey was. We continue to use that and that becomes part of the bid documents that go out. But that's fundamentally where we are. They've got to create or take the design that we have and create bid documents for, you know, contractors to bid on the work.
And are we set on that design?
Are we set on the, like, repairing the hillside? And I think part of the bid documents is to look at that and come back with, like, what do they recommend?
Who recommends?
Like someone who would come in and do the work.
Okay, because there have been plans that have been written up for that.
Yes.
Yes, so is that where you're getting bid at now?
That is part of the documents that would go out for the bidders.
Right, but I'm just asking, are we okay with those plans? Are those the plans that we support?
Have we seen them?
Well, I thought so.
Well, I think a few of us, but I don't think the general public, and there are some areas, now I remember when we last met about that, like, there's a lot of stakeholders involved, right? And so the plan, some of the plans might not appease a lot of the, because you have the Fairhaven Yacht Works, you have people who access the river, such as emergency services too as well. You also concern about stormwater, concern about paving and, you know, other things, and I just wondered if that last rendition of what the plans are, is that what, before we send that out to bid, we should probably be on the same page or maybe make some. I don't know, I'm just asking like.
Well, there's this-
Is it a complete package? I don't think so, right?
Well, there's the report and the design from Stevens.
Mm-hmm,
So there's that piece.
mm-hmm.
And then there are some, I might have.
And then there
printed out,
was
but there's
also a
some
report and
sketches
design that Rich did.
like this. Right, there's some of these design sketches that came along with it. So I would say that when it comes back from Chris to say, hey, this is what we want to go forward with, we would then have an opportunity to have that discussion.
Okay. But you know, before that goes out to bid.
Right.
Yes, yeah,
As a point in the process.
okay, but I guess the first step is to find out whether we need a new survey or not, and so that's what you and John,
Yeah, that was the
Are
first
trying to
bit, because
figure
we
out.
would have to spend money on it to do that,
right?
which we were trying to avoid.
I can
Um,
share some of these with you too. so
Thanks. That'd be
these,
great.
They were done by, yeah, this was back in 2016.
You can email it to me, that'd be great. So Sean, are you saying you're asking the people, potential bidders to write specifications or their written specifications? Because that sounds like a self-interested response might be returned.
Well, I think we would define what the objectives are, and we would provide the material like what's from Stevens. I would like to see it open to suggestion, right? So if we want natives planted on the hillside, we might say of, this category or a menu of items.
Mhm.
They might say, all right, we propose to use these. Now we can say, okay, we want you to use those, or we want you to use other ones.
Right,
When it comes to the dunes or the riprap or around in the shoreline, we might say, hey, we want it to be, it should do this. Like it should, it should have some sort of outcome, but if
Mhm.
we're too prescriptive, then
Right.
they're just gonna tell us what that is.
Right.
If that's what we want, then that's one way of doing it. We can say, these are the objectives, these are some suggestions. You're welcome to also make your recommendations.
So is this, who's driving this project? Is this, I mean, where is our input in this process? It sounds like you're talking about performance spec, so they'll say, we'll get to point Z, this is the way we propose to get there.
It's my first time, so
Okay.
I've not been through it before, but we're not a project management team.
We,
We
Okay.
are, right,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
handed that off to the borough administrator. They're the ones that take it from here. So we've given our input in the design specs that have been drawn up. I'm expecting it to kind of come back again and have another pass.
Okay.
Before it goes out to bid.
Yeah. And that was your question, right, Kelly? Do we have additional
Yes,
input?
right, because I don't think half the team has seen it, and just, there were a couple of different versions of plans
Mhm.
from in-house and out-of-house, and a lot of these plans are from 2017 too, and so.
Right, and the thing that we were going to pull back on was the Rutgers design that had a rain garden and had us stopping the
Mhm.
street and had us parking lots and all like parking spots. That was being pulled back.
The in-house had the parking. Right, and a lot of concrete, like a lot more pavement, right, not the records. But
Okay.
yes, but it just, there was a lot of difference, there was two different distinct versions, maybe a mix of both. But also like just talking to and getting community input or buy-in. As well.
Great. So we should expect to see something back after the maps.
I would say we're, probably a couple months away
Yeah.
with everything else that's going on, but yeah, it's.
It's moving
there.
ahead. Great.
Cool, all right, the next item is the Sustainable New Jersey application.
I did, send something to Christy, I don't know if you wanna put it up there or not, the spreadsheet. And I could kind of just talk through. So our, for those that don't know, our Sustainable Jersey application is due again, it expires, next year. And we are hoping to maintain our silver certification, for the borough. What silver means is that we will have 350 points that we will achieve. It also includes one required action, which is the formation of a green team, which we just have to update. 3 priority actions out of 8 categories. And so if you, is that sheet 7? Do you see, it says sheet 2025, that one?
Yeah.
Yes, thanks. Okay, so I just kind of color coordinate, sorry, it's a little crazy to see from here. But you could zoom in a little bit,
Yeah,
there
it's
you
great.
go, perfect. So, you can click on, so you can see, perfect. Sustainable Jersey Actions does have a hyperlink, so that will take you to the action page and you can look. If you need to, on just what each action is, you can look it up right there and it could tell you everything you need for that action, which is awesome. Thank you, Christy. And then what I also have, and I will try to update, and you could see, and you could scroll through and it tells you why it's important, what is needed, some guidance, what other towns have done to achieve it. So it's a really good map, guideline, everything you need to know to get that action is right there. It is fantastic. So it kind of just maps it all out there for you. Many of the actions also have different point systems. So you get 10 points for doing the bare minimum, you get it 15 points if you do extra, it all depends. But if you go back to that spreadsheet, Christy, thank you, perfect. Some of the actions themselves are also hyperlinked. I'll eventually get to them, you know, so that you could just easily get there if you need to. The reds are what we have are recurring. So these are ones that we do not have to redo. These are one and done, or they're done for the next foreseeable future, so that they will be done for the next rendition. So we have 55 points already in our
Nice.
application so far. So that's a good start.
That is,
Okay.
helps.
So, and that includes a national resource inventory, which is our ERI, tree protection ordinance, bicycle pedestrian audits, and the plan, and our tree planting program. Those that are renewal in the yellow here, these are ones that we have submitted, but they all expired this past year. And so obviously, you know, create a green team, which is mandatory. Then I also put in here, is it a priority action? So remember, we do have to, in order to be silver certified, we have to have 3 different priority actions. And so I listed 2 as well, you can see in that area. But I was hoping that this would just be a starting point where people could say, hey, look, like for instance, Anna, there's down in Planned, there's a farmer's market, and she's gonna probably say, I'll be the owner for that. So I'll make sure all the materials for the farmer's market, I will gather that and take ownership of it. So you can see where the yellow are renewals. Doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do each and every one of those again, renewals. And then some other planned ones that we had thought about are the ones in blue. Some of them, why we didn't do them the first run around is maybe they were a little bit too much of input from the borough. We didn't have it, or they're just bigger types of action plans. But if you can notice something that's really number 54 here, the municipal water story, this has come up time and time again. It's worth 20 points. It's a priority action and a gold star as well. So this is something that, you know, we've been also talking about how important it is for our stormwater management. So some of these are bigger items that we might just, I encourage people to take a look at some of these actions and see where they align with our priorities. And I know, Sean, you're going to be talking about the strategic plan, areas of focus, and some of these might just help be a guide map for how to do that. And we get points for it. So,
So I just, was the blue mean again?
the blue, these are all planned, like things that we can do. And I know also with Anna being on the fire department as well, I know we do a lot of this stuff. It just, we didn't have the resources or the time to actually reach out to the fire department and get all this information. I know they go into the schools and they teach about fire safety. I know they do a lot of that prevention materials. We just didn't have the,
We didn't
you know,
talk about it, we didn't tell them about it.
we didn't have the labor to like go in there and get it all and collect it because we were kind of like scrambling. This is a big job. It also requires a lot of people's input, apart from the Environmental Commission. If you could see, you know, Betty Ann was a huge resource with a lot of the communications that we have. Christy was great because there's a lot that pertain to the Shade Tree Commission. But like our fleet inventory, we were trying to get our fleet inventory, which I think is a huge thing to have, right? What vehicles do we own? What year are they? What is their gas mileage? So that you know, if you're trying to be more efficient, like which one is the next one to get off and what are we gonna do with that? And like that is just good budgeting and documentation, but we could not, nobody was going into all the cars and doing all the mileage, and you know, we just couldn't get the person, the labor to do that. But once we have the fleet inventory, then we can automatically get our municipal carbon footprint. So it goes like one with the other. And these are just, you know, things to know. And maybe obviously now with our borough administrator, he might already be doing some of this stuff or already on it. Like municipally supported community or aggregate energy. Like, there's a lot of different things. I know, we've been improved our public engagement and planning and zoning and municipal government with our open houses. It's just a matter of documentation, a lot of this stuff. So. This is. So I guess from now until January, if people wanna just run through it, look through it, and maybe. Own one or two that you're like, okay, this is in my wheelhouse, or I'd be happy to kind of lead the charge on this. That would be helpful, and you could feel free, I could share this with everyone, and we could put your name in there, and we can kind of work. From there,
Yeah, why don't you share it so we can take a look?
sure, happy to.
Do you want to go outside of DC for any of
Yes.
these efforts?
So I will share, I wonder, Carolyn and Paul, what do you guys, if there's anything that pertains specifically to the natural area? But I'd be happy to like kind of go through that. I know there is one, open space plans. I need to look more at that, right? But or if we're already doing it. There's one like environmental commission site plan review. It's like, are we already doing that when we look at the site plan?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Kelly, it would be helpful too, to understand what information you're looking for.
Yes.
Like.
Well, it will all show that in the
Okay.
action, it'll
Okay,
say
great.
what's included, and so. It would be great if like, you're like, this rings my bell, I'm gonna look in it and you do it, otherwise it's like a lot.
Okay.
I'm happy to do some too, but
Yeah.
for instance, community design for all ages, I know there is an open house Saturday for an inclusive playground, I wonder if that is part of. Community design for all.
Ages.
I think it was all.
Specific.
I think there's something else, I don't know, I might have put ages and I was writing all these down, but it could be for all accessibility.
Mhm.
Anyway,
This is great.
Yeah.
so,
I mean, this is, for me,
Just
this
a good
is super
start.
helpful to
Okay.
like see it all in one place.
okay,
So if we did all of the renewal, got all the renewal points.
yeah,
What would be, where would we be?
we would be at, so 55, I don't know, let me just. Let me just sum it up here. Is that what it is?
Did you go down to fire then?
I didn't do the fire yet too, but if we did that, it would be.
So we'd be over 350.
Yes,
320.
3
What
hours.
is the threshold to get to gold?
So there is no gold, so the thing is, you can have gold star, which you could be gold starred in either energy, health, or water. Depending on if you are, so, yes, and then. Another caveat here, important, the first round of submissions is due February 23rd. And for our first round, we need to have 150 points completed.
And does the recurring ones count towards the
Yes,
150?
the recurring ones do count, but like things that we already know, like farmer's market, right? Like farmer market accessibility. We know we have, emergency community, like we know we have a bunch of this stuff in here, prescription drug and safety program. Grass, cut it and leave it. We just have to get the documentation from Patty Ann when she put that on the screen. Or when she put it in the Borough Buzz, etc. Hold a green fair, that's our Love Where You Live Day every year. So I could easily update that with photos and documentation. All that stuff. Create a green team and the Environmental Commission are both two that there's 20 points right there. We just have to kind of set, put our board members and everything else. on there.
Basic information.
Yeah. So,
And is it all submitted in that website?
so
Or do you-
there is a,
Does it need to be like, does it things
there
need to
is
be-
an application and I'm going to have to call and see because, as it is currently, I'm not even the administrator on it. It is Ralph and Lalini still, so I have to go back, I have to like get in touch with people there and like
User
update that,
access.
user access. And there are some people in the green team that have user access, some people that don't. So I would have to make sure that, people here get access to it, or simply Christy has access I have access, at least give us the documentation and we can upload it.
Okay.
It usually creates like a little summary too, and you have access to the old summary, and sometimes you might just have to add a couple and change some dates, so. Once it's already done, it's really not bad. It's just a matter of getting in touch with people from different departments and getting that information and submitting it.
And did I read correct, like when you're on, I think from the website, it says submit earlier because there can be like a review and questions and it goes back and forth.
Yeah,
Is that right?
so you submit February 23rd, your return date is early April, and so it might, and they give you great recommendations. They say, awesome, the only thing I'm missing is this, or you're right there, you know, or approved. So you know what you have to go back in and fix and then approve. Then the second round is May 16th, return date mid-June, third final round is July 31st, and then we find out in late September if we are awarded. But it's, you know, and people ask why get certified. It is, you know, obviously our access point for funding for grants through this organization. It also helps save money as a borough when you're buying from a renewable energy, you're doing community aggregate, you're doing a lot of different, you know, more sustainable actions all around. You're creating a more inclusive environment, sustainable environment. You get access to some really great workshops, tools. And then you also just, you know, get that feather in your cap. You get to promote it, you know, and every other peninsula town was silver certified. We were kind of like that hole in the donut there. We finally got in, so we weren't left behind. And so gold star is just important too, because it's those, if you're gold star in energy, health, or water, you're helping the state achieve its the sustainability state of the state report that they published in 2015 to try to get everybody to be on board to meet our goals as a state.
So do you have to do a certain number of gold star
You do not,
in
or
a certain
for
area?
you,
So like let's say for water, do we just say you
Right.
wanna do water and we have to go do a certain number that are
So I was
gold
looking,
stars?
I was looking into that, trying to do more info. I might need to like just talk to somebody and,
Okay,
there. But yes, there are some required in order to get a gold star in energy or health. It tells you what you need to get.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
if it's not too far out of reach,
Go
push
for
for
the
it.
goal.
yeah, go
Sorry?
Go for the
Go
goal.
for
Yeah,
gold.
and I think, I mean, water, it's such a
Water
water town,
seems-
like,
Yeah.
So there's,
it's
you
so
know,
topical right now, why not?
like, there's a new one that just got released this year is, and I thought, I bet you we can easily do this. Winter best practices to reduce road salt impacts. Like, that is a big,
It's huge.
huge issue for, I mean, we're a coastal town, but I bet you we could probably, you know, do that, we could probably earn that, or at least maybe consider it, but like, that's also a no-brainer for our coastal town.
Yeah.
So, you know, they just opened that up this year.
Okay.
You know, so it's actually, it's just a nice set of goals and ambitions of where your town wants to go in that direction too.
So one more question, when
Yeah.
you, in that column for like a priority action, what does that mean when it's a priority action?
So that's what I said. So in order to be silver certified, you can't just do all the actions from one or two of the same categories. You need 8 different categories. So if you look at the actions, if you look back at the different actions that there are, see, food, energy, diversity, equity, emergency management.
these are a
Those are
category.
all the categories.
Okay.
Like arts, creative culture, I think now with the estuary and some of the other art stuff that we've, you know, green design, innovative projects, local economies. So
Okay.
it's not just what we think about, you know, stuff that pertains to the environmental commission only, right? It's also land use, transportation, it's diversity, it's health, wellness. So all different aspects of the town. But you need 8, you need to have, your points have to come from 8 different ones of those
Okay.
categories. And you need to have 3 priority actions. There's 13 priority actions. And we have to choose 3 of them. So you can't just do like the easiest, you know what I mean, like the littlest ones. Not in each category.
Okay.
Overall.
So I've marked on there which ones are priority.
And so we already have.
We
one
already have one.
from the ERI
Mhm.
essentially gives us one
Yeah,
priority action. Okay.
yeah. Like prescription drug and safety program is a priority, energy tracking and management. Are we still doing that energy tracking? and management?
What?
The energy tracking and management?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Green Business Recognition Program, we had started that expires, this month. That's a priority action.
Did we ever look into the energy efficiency for municipal facilities?
Yes, so that was, I shared with you that energy plan, right?
So do we
But
we just don't qualify or we do?
no, cause we needed to follow up with perhaps having somebody come in and give, an inspection, like
An audit?
An audit. Yeah.
Better with the new building, when the new building.
Well, obviously the new buildings, but this building itself could be audited, should be audited, and there's probably some low hanging fruit we could do to maximize the energy efficiency. Yeah.
And do you get the points from the audit or do you get points for taking the action?
I think
after
you
the
have to
audit?
at least get an audit, and then you can, maybe hopefully you would do an audit with the intent of doing some of that stuff.
Mhm.
Some things. I have to go back and look at it, but we weren't even getting the audit.
Right.
JCP&L does it for free.
They do, I know. And we had a great, I had that great presentation, we had the energy fellow. That was our next steps, there was just no interest.
Okay, right, okay, that jogs my memory.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But we did do the energy,
So what was that called? Was that like an assessment? That was not an audit?
no.
What?
But we
Okay.
have our energy tracking and management, which Christy was doing,
I'm still doing it.
which she's still doing it, which is amazing, she's still doing it, she's so good. So we could see how our energy is tracking and managing, obviously, things are gonna be different with the new 2 buildings, but. And also hopefully by hall, this chapel will be improved with all those improvements as well. Because that was pretty bad, obviously, and this building is not great. Our Energy Star rating is like a C.
Let's see that.
We could do better.
So on that spreadsheet, based on like last time it was done, does it make sense to assign, do you have the information to kind of assign?
Like if you look at sheet 6, if you wanna look at that, this was like last time.
Okay,
So there were some people that like, I got it, I'm doing it, and then you could go through. And there was, people just took ownership of it. But I suggest,
do you wanna have you guys as the green team take a first cut at it and take who
Or
wants
like
what?
anybody can look at now, just be like, choose one at least, if everyone could just choose one, and there's some. I think that'd be super helpful. I mean, like there's some that are no brainer, like Anna might just say, sure, I'll do all the fire, like. Same with Christy, she said, I'll do all the shade tree because I'm on the shade tree.
Crossbow, yeah.
And that was 5 or 6 of them, so, I'd say look through them, if there's any that reach out to you. That would be helpful.
Okay.
We could go from there, and if I see nobody's entering, then I will sign.
Okay. No, I
By the next meeting.
was gonna say, cause I think
By the
February is
next
gonna
meeting,
come.
yes,
Yeah,
February's
like,
gonna
we're gonna have the
come.
February meeting and it's gonna be due.
So we have a January
later.
meeting when, January 1.
February 16th, and then our February meeting is the 13th.
So by Jan 16th, if not my goal is that everybody in the EC chooses one,
Okay,
and if not, I will choose for you.
Looking like a.
Excuse me,
Yes.
can you hear me? Hi.
Hi,
Yeah, were we supposed to be able to see that? That
do we not share it?
spreadsheet? Right now, I just see Christie typing the minutes on the screen.
Oh.
Sorry, Gary,
Sorry,
we're
Gary.
sharing, but maybe not with you.
Yeah.
We saw it in the beginning and then it switched to. Oh, there it
Oh.
is. Yeah.
It's just a
okay.
color, it's a colorful spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I was moving the things around, because there was a lot going on with the TVs.
Okay.
Also, I'm gonna send it out.
Yeah,
That'd be
you
great.
feel free to send it out and share.
Awesome, thank
Yeah,
you for doing that.
And I'll hyperlink, if it's easier, if you guys have questions for it too, let me know.
I would say don't spend your time creating hyperlinks.
No, well, right, I
I
get
would
it.
say have a hyperlink to the website and
Okay.
let's hope that
Some of
most
them
of us
already
are smart
done,
enough
yes.
to find
Okay.
it.
Good, well, the hyperlink's right up there, SJ.
I
action.
think a good use of your time is if you see things that are obvious for certain people, go ahead and
And
suggest.
earmark
Anna,
it or send
suggest.
it to them and
Show-
say, hey, yeah, this looks right up your alley,
Yes,
okay,
I would be okay with that.
okay, sure. Good,
I won't take offense.
okay.
Great, okay, I love it.
Great.
And target for next month.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, you brought up the dates. I'm gonna jump a little bit out of order. If you're looking at the minutes, it came out. So Gary, this is for you as well. Just have a quick look at the meeting dates for 2025. They're all listed here at the bottom of the minutes. Put them in your calendar, put a big star next to it, whatever you need to do, put a reminder in your calendar. I only say that because I missed a planning board meeting this year because it wasn't on the cycle. It was off cycle and just got lazy, so. That's why it's here. Thank you, Christy, for putting that in the minutes. I'm gonna jump around a little bit to finish off. In new business, I had put in here, there wasn't really much new business, brought up before the meeting. But since we've got Carolyn and Paul here, I did want to share with everyone on the Environmental Commission a memo that the Natural Area Advisory Committee had sent to the borough regarding the renovation of Fairhaven Road and its impact on, I guess, the easternmost boundary of the natural area. So I don't have to speak for you if you want to just give a quick couple minutes on why you felt compelled to write the memo.
Yeah,
Good
we
to
for
hear.
about 3 years have been requesting curbs on Fairhaven Road adjacent to the natural area. Because water comes in off of Buttonwood and comes into the natural area and is creating erosion in that area, and it has been. So we've asked for 3 years in our annual reports for curbs. We were told this year that they're doing Fairhaven Road Phase 2, which is that section of Fairhaven Road. But that they weren't gonna put curbs there, but that they were addressing the problem in other ways. So our committee said, can you share the plans with us so we can understand what's going on? And we got like 2 or 3 sentences that we really couldn't understand. They used terminology we didn't know. And we said, like, can either we meet with you or can you show us a diagram? And we had to ask a number of times before we finally got something. But we finally got the diagram. I guess it was in the bid for the work. And it includes a stone dust path that would go, I think from Buttonwood across the street to the natural area and then make a path under the cherry trees.
Yeah, crosswalk from Blackwood and then Stone Dust Pass.
Across.
Okay, and goes to the north end of the natural area there. At that,
Essentially between the trees and the current wooden post fence.
yeah, so, I think you're aware that there's a concern just kind of loitering around. Our committee's done some work on it. What's happening with the cherry trees and how do we preserve that? We believe it's an iconic feature. We understand that the trees are beyond their expected lifespan. There's been different suggestions from different groups. We've met with the DPW about it and we pretty much agree that at some point to preserve that, we believe we would need to take the fence and move it a little west to make more room. Currently, the big trees overhang the cherry trees and block sun from them. So we think, what we've talked about is that the fence could come back. on the edge of the natural area there are some large trees, but they're invasive trees. They could be removed and probably replaced with something that's evergreen that grows straight up, doesn't grow with overhanging branches. So that like the first row of trees there could be something that's like an evergreen that grows straight up, and then in from there, then we could start just random trees that might have branches that overhang. So basically to create a little more room, by the cherry trees to either plant a backup row, to take every third one down and put a young one in.
Mhm.
Yeah, what we've said is like, why don't we agree on a plan? And then we'll start doing the parts that our area needs to do. And then whoever's gonna take care of the cherry trees can do their part, but then we'd like to collaborate so that we can achieve a good outcome. So in this Fairhaven phase 2, there is a stone dust path that's gonna go under the cherry trees. Really, there is a walking path there now that people have made themselves, right? This path would go over the roots of these cherry trees, which, you know. So that's just the plan there, and just we have to remember that the roots of a tree extend as wide as the branches. So, we made a suggestion that this stone dust path could be a wood chip path instead. We're kind of concerned that putting stone dust on top of the roots of the cherry trees, you know, it could be more harmful than maybe wood chips. We don't know 100%, but that was our speculation. The wood chips are lighter than the stone dust. They're softer on the exposed roots. They're an organic material that will break down and actually feed the trees. Then another point of why we like this, the path will need to be maintained and periodically replenished with covering. The borough gets wood chips for free from Frontier. It pays for stone dust. We think we mentioned that we think we need to anticipate that this proposed new trail is gonna need to be moved. When somebody does decide to do something with the cherry trees, we think it would be easier and cheaper to move a wood chip trail than a stone dust trail. Also, as stormwater comes into the natural area, it will bring some of that path material with it. We'd rather have wood chips come in than stone dust. And then lastly, and possibly most importantly, that path really connects right up with the paths that are in the natural area that are covered with wood chips. So like we already have an established path, network of paths. This could just appear to be an extension of that. And we feel like it would give a more unified appearance to the whole area and the paths in that area. So we shared that. We shared it on November 20th. I hadn't heard anything back on the 8th, so I wrote and asked if somebody could acknowledge that our email was received. I did get back somebody, Chris York told me that, you know, thank you, I'll discuss it with Rich Gardella and the governing body. So that's it.
Thanks.
All right,
Okay.
great.
Thank you. So there are no curves though.
No curves.
Okay, no curves.
Oh, in the future?
No curves.
Oh, okay.
I think the way they've explained it is that they're regrading the road so that it won't be
As much as
the path of water that'll get spread out. I honestly don't know exactly how that will work, but they've assured us that's how it's gonna work.
But there will be curbs, like. There's a sidewalk on that street, so where those homes are, right north of that part, they'll have a sidewalk there? Or no, to connect to that wood chip path that you're proposing, right?
I think so far there is not sidewalks there. I think there's a note in the plans that says something about arrange for right of way or something, right?
I think that's right.
Yeah, so so that stone path just kind of dead ends. But it does look like there's some indication.
It does
that-
connect, yeah, I
No,
believe.
there are no sidewalks there now,
No, not now, but there will be.
not as part of this plan,
No, it's phase 2.
Really?
right? There's a note that says something about establishing a right of way, so maybe there isn't one, so I don't know. But it just dead ends, but you could see that it might be gonna meet up with some sidewalks that someone hopes might be there eventually.
And those homes have curbs on them right now, or no?
I don't know.
Okay.
And yeah, I think you guys got the plans.
I don't recall getting the plan.
Oh, it wasn't in what I sent.
Yeah, I
No, it's
remember
gonna
seeing
be-
the plan somewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they've been circled around this once, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I can
what
send
brought
them
us
to
luck.
Christie.
But the,
Sean
I
just
would-
sent it to me today.
I would say
Okay,
there is a version, an electronic version that's been going around.
Oh, this, yeah.
They are,
Could you share? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
they are like, I guess Chris's point of view is they are shared with the Department of Transportation. And then they apply like what needs to be done. And so like the roadways and all that stuff is kind of like set. I think the choice of material that you guys have brought to the table here, I think that's open to discussion. I don't think that is something that the Department of Transportation necessarily mandates it has to be a certain way.
no, in fact, when I talked to people, it sounded like it was a bit of an afterthought or, you know.
I would be more, I guess, looking at it, current condition, I'd be more concerned that there is soil or grading done over top the current roots
Right,
to help cover them and improve the longevity and health of them
right.
through some landscaping where a path is part of that. All right,
All right, and can I sneak in one, go to the public comment? I know I'm out of order.
go for it.
I just want to let you know, the next week, we're having 29 trees planted in the natural area, the northwest area, mostly in the northwest. And that area is under restoration, as you know. We did have it seeded this week with, where the borough paid to have it seeded with, native grasses. And then, next week, there'll be 29, trees and bushes planted there. So
Awesome.
you can look forward
Is
to
that
that
all right behind Meadow Flower where you guys have been working right? now?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
clearing that out. That's
in that
fantastic.
area. We're trying to establish a border, we're trying to screen the border with the church. The church
Are they?
has the affordable housing overlay on it.
Mhm.
So we've talked about the fact that we have to imagine at some point that that could be multi-unit housing or something. And that it would be nice if we had a screen, and that if we start now, maybe we would have something with
Yeah.
some size by the time that might happen.
Mm.
So we're just trying to, think ahead,
Okay.
right?
And does that mean like because that area was getting pesticide or herbicide treatment at some point?
It
Is
got
that
2
done?
herbicide treatments this year and now, seeded with native grasses. It has to go through a cold spell to help the seeds stratify, and hopefully in the spring, native grasses will pop up, we'll see.
All right,
All right,
Pretty much.
they'll do some pre-emergent herbicide in the spring.
awesome.
Yep,
Fantastic.
great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, the last item on our business was to talk through the strategic plan. That was circulated a couple days ago. Christie, if you don't mind sharing that so we can all see it. So Gary, whether you're following along with us or just looking at it from the email yesterday came out. I think yesterday it came out. It's the same material.
Right. Yeah, I can say it. I can say it.
I went to the, oh, you, no, you can't.
Can you do it so we can all see it?
Yeah.
He and us? Maybe I'll kick it off, Susan, then you can jump in, please.
Sure.
Okay. So the idea here was to try to answer the question, what are we working on? What's our priorities? What are we gonna take the time out of our days to spend time on? And it seemed like there was also a great opportunity to link up with the other volunteer groups in town that have different missions. So Natural Area Advisory Committee is a great one, present tonight. So there's that aspect of it. Another aspect is, if you want to just jump to the approach, Christie, that would be great. So I know I'm the latecomer to the meeting, but when I jumped in May, there was already a set of objectives or kind of, there's an Excel strategy document that you guys were working on. It was largely tied to topics. So that was a starting point. In September, I believe, August, September, I guess it was September, we had the joint green team workshop here, where we did a little bit of brainstorming and a little bit of action to try to see, could we come together on some common goals? I think we did. I mentioned meeting with some of the other groups, so you know, obviously Green Team is innately involved. Met with Shade Tree Commission, Natural Area Advisory Committee, council members. I'd like to get with the Garden Club as well, but just there's a lot of groups out there that are, you know, looking at the same thing through a different lens. And I don't want to kind of be the one all be all, but I would like to be able to capture it in a way that when Carolyn and Paul go to Borough and say, hey, we think we should be doing this with our cherry trees, it exists somewhere in our world where we can say, yes, we agree with that. It's part of a, I don't want to use the overword they use, master plan, but it's part of a plan, and it's part of our strategy as well. Here's how it fits in. So that's where I use that word framework that connects, you know, our fundamental mission with the priorities and the activities that are actually going on, like boots on the ground, people doing volunteer work, people helping raise awareness, wherever it comes. So that's kind of where we at. And the idea is here, I feel like we can really amplify ourselves when we're working more lockstep with our other groups. You know, we can continue to go about how we have been, where, you know, you're doing something, you're doing something, you're doing something. And that can be fine. Like every group has their own objectives, and that's great. I just feel like this might be a way for us to improve that. So that's really why I think it's valuable of my time, our time to do something like this. But that's great. Yeah, you can keep scrolling, Christy. So just a quick one here on, if you've been on the website for our environmental commission website off of the borough. It's a very long, what do we do? It's kind of like everything under the sun. I wanted to try to hone in on a tighter message, something where if anyone asked you on the street, you're at a party, you're talking to friends, whatever, like, what do you do on the environmental commission? Like, something should be able to kind of quickly roll off your tongue. And this is getting, to me, Susan and I have had a chance to kind of go back and forth on this. It feels a little bit more natural. It feels a little bit more action oriented. It feels a little bit something like, I know I could say, yeah, we provide recommendations to the governing body. I think what was missing was a little bit more like the guidance we can provide to residents. And I don't want to overstep or overplay our hand, but if it doesn't start here, then it starts with you guys and the green team. And I guess I see us as kind of like two sides of the same coin. Like, yes, our mission is policy, advisory, you know, taking in expert advice. I'd also like to see it a little bit more proactive, action oriented. So I'll pause there. Susan, anything you want to add?
Well, I think the first verb is advocates, so that kind of sums up what you're saying, really. That's taking the message out. So you have your audiences in-house and out-house, out of house.
How does that sit with you as the?
Yeah, I mean, I think there have been many iterations of this throughout the years too, where there's been a need for input and collaboration and discussion amongst many different commissions and groups in town. I do think that funneling through this organization isn't a bad way to go about it. I mean, this should be our you know, where they can come get support collaborate and work on these shared interests and projects together. You know, and so I think it needs, it's a needed approach. It's a needed thing, you know, that we've been trying to do, previously, but like, yes, just kind of create something that's established, would be helpful.
Awesome. Gary, following along, does this make sense to you?
Yeah, I think it's good. I like it. I'm following.
Awesome. So the structure that that we're working towards is like a pyramid. If you imagine, like we've got like our mission and our vision at the very top. We've got a set of priorities, which is like that next layer. And then you could even kind of go into like projects or strategies under each of these priorities. So for example, open space preservation. That's sort of broad enough that understanding what are we going to do long term with the cherry trees would have a great home there. Right, protecting and enhancing our canopy, right? That's a great home for the mission of the Shade Tree Commission, or what, you know, other things they're trying to do in the natural area, like the plantings that they're planning to do in the spring. Mark and, you know, what he's trying to do with his group of volunteers in the 3rd Street Trail, you know, it's not unspecific, but it's, you know, it's not too specific that it like starts to shut people out. So that's the idea here, and we kind of just took a first pass at this based on the work we did with the green team in September. These were like the 4 kind of areas that gravitated the most interest and the most alignment as far as like being a top priority. What we talked about earlier tonight, the waterfront end of Normandy, you know, it sits nicely in number 1. And so you can imagine a view like this. Under each priority, we have 1, 2, a handful of strategies. Like it creates a lot of work. So we're not trying to necessarily create more work, but it's just trying to help organize this. So when we talk about, well, how do we want to spend our funding? You know, where do we want to make investments in certain areas if that means we're making trade-offs from other areas. But like I said, the Normandy living shoreline could exist under priority 1, under a strategy of stabilizing our shoreline. Something we've talked about in the past, the environmental scorecard, you know, having a water component to that. So sorry, I want to say it incorrectly, rally for
the 2 rivers?
Yeah, right, they're collecting on an ongoing basis the water quality. It's just as simple as, you know, getting that information and publishing it in a way that, you know, digestible for our residents. And then starting to then get into the additional.
Sorry.
No, it's cool, you can stay there, you can just stay on that other slide. Yeah, so I put a bullet point in here for outreach, like tips for minimizing property runoff. That might be something that we decide to go out, you know, through Betty Ann, through the Borough Buzz. Maybe we've been talking about the different social media channels that currently exist. But it's tied back to something, right? It's got a home in the overall or overarching strategy. So that's kind of what I was trying to do. So I'm going to pause there again. How does that feel? Or Susan, sorry, anything you want to add?
So I don't really, I mean, you covered it and we worked on it, and then I hope everybody has opinions about it, right? Input.
Is the organization helpful? Is it confusing?
I find it helpful.
Thanks, Gary.
Is this
I would-
going to be like on the website somewhere or something? Are you talking about having this, or this?
I have no problem with it living in the public domain. I mean, it needs to get to a point where we've adopted it and we're working on it. So up until that point, I think it's a like it says at the bottom, this is a draft, this is for discussion. I want all of us to feel comfortable that we're moving forward together in this, and it's not just me kind of or subset of us coming up with this. But yes, I believe this becomes our, you know, this is what we focus on, and that could be a horizon, like. For the next 1 to 2, 3 years, maybe these are our 4 priorities, and then, you know, next year, it might change, like, it's not set in stone for the life of. While we're here.
And I'd say also just to piggyback on what I said previously with Sustainable Jersey Actions, there's a lot that you can find that could fit into this as well as
Good.
action plans,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like,
good.
so even just like the road salt policy, right? And you're monitoring water quality, or, you know, what other types of actions we're doing to help our shoreline health. Right, and that could be just one thing, and that could give a little guidebook for, you know, reaching that stormwater compliance, you know, going above and beyond, gets you more points as well. You know, so there could be a lot of different, the water story, I mean, a lot of things that could be connected on here that could. So you could get points as long as well, or just help us kind of guide map some of these actions.
Yeah, and in the wording even here, like the strategies, like 1C that you called out, we're not wedded to these wordings just yet. This was just sort of an example to get everyone talking about what we're trying to accomplish. But to your point, it could be broader than just residents. It could be, you know, that and borough for borough
Right.
property and their responsibility about runoff, and we have a whole thing around focus on salt in the winter,
Right.
dog poo and other things.
Right.
But yeah, so this is, you know, with the environmental commission members' support, you know, we would continue to build these out for the other 3 areas and start to map the projects and the activities that we know we want to take to this. And then what I feel very comfortable with is in saying to someone like Chris York, here's kind of a running list of projects and here's how we help prioritize them. Or how we tell a story about, you know, the funding that's required and if there's a gap. So we think these are important in the next 3 years. There's only so much funding. Okay, like, is there a method for us to fill that gap or do we have to prioritize?
Sean, one thing we didn't talk about, and it takes me a while to digest all the information, and there's a lot of information. So with the priorities, is your vision that we say this year we're doing priority 1, or we pick strategy 1 from one of each 4 I mean, obviously, we're a limited group, and then we know we have limited resources, but as far as financial and also people. So how do we distribute that? It's ambitious. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the problem. It
Yeah.
becomes like, you
Yeah.
start seeing it all on paper and you're like,
Right.
oh, it's actually a lot bigger than we thought it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid of kind of getting that done first and just assessing that. How it comes to be, I think we'll probably find that we've got something in each of the 4 areas going at any given time.
Yeah.
And we probably would ask ourselves, you go next. You know, okay, we're talking about the Christmas trees, like,
Right.
do we want to take that on in addition to all the other things that we have going on our
Mhm.
plate? And that now we can kind of have that conversation a little
Right.
bit more quantitatively. Because it's a little clearer about all the things that we're prioritizing.
And has this, you know, I wonder, are these priorities also match the priorities of the borough?
That's a good question. I don't know.
You know, or like the master plan, right? And thinking about this, because it is so much bigger and daunting if it's just the environmental commission. But I believe that shoreline health, I would hope, is also a priority of the borough.
But where would that
And
live?
I don't know, but it would also not just be with us, right, but it should be in like part of the master plan, like, I just wonder if there's overlap on our priorities with the master plan too, and so if shoreline health is a priority of the borough, then DPW, it's also a priority for DPW, and it's also a priority for recreation, and it's also, I mean, you know, I wonder if in a way, can we share this with them and see, is there alignment? Are we collaborative forces here? Are we working together
That's a great question to ask.
Yeah.
And so
Support.
being on the planning board, I would say there is very little, or different way, there's a lot of latitude in what's in the planning, the master plan. Like the environment and the, that section of the housing element is like 100 words. I mean, it kind of encompasses everything and nothing at the same time, like it's not specific, so. Yes, water and transportation and people getting their mobility is important, tree health is important, like it. To say it's in there is like an easy, yes, it's in there, but it's not very specific.
Mhm.
So I think it's on us to make it more specific, it's not up to the planning board. When they go to write that, like they're doing their re-examination of the master plan, they're gonna reach out to, they should reach out to us, I'll make sure they reach out to us, but they should get our input when it comes to the environment and the sustainability portions of that write-up.
Well, just so that too, if we're trying to accomplish some of these strategies and these projects, that we aren't. You know, our goal, we are a recommendation, a body that gives recommendations. We don't have any authoritative action. We are not an action-based organization. But that we hope that our recommendations then turn into actions if we are on the same page. Right, if there is, you know. If that's, you know, open. Taken openly and, you know, we're kind of working together. So I just, you know,
I would
Share.
say we would probably be in line or slightly in front of the council. Like we would be pulling them towards action and informing them of direction they need to take. So the third one is really dedicated to stormwater. And I think the way we crafted it, it's both us as private citizens in our own home, and it's the public domain, like what the borough is responsible for. You know, certainly they're spending a lot of time. And DPW is spending a lot of time coming up to speed on what needs to be done from an infrastructure. You know, maybe we do take on a more action-oriented role in that, and that's part of the outreach to the general public. We take a lead role in that to help. It might go through their channel, like Betty Ann might still deliver that message, but we might be helping them craft it. I guess that's the way I see it working hand in hand.
right, but I'm just saying, like, we aren't the ones saying, okay, yes, the Normandy Living Shoreline is now a priority, and we're gonna put budget money and funding to that, like, that's just a recommendation that we wanna do to Normandy, but council would say, nope, we don't have that in our budget.
Right.
So I'm just hoping that there is a, you know, healthy discussion and that we're aligned on this, right? Otherwise, you know, we can do all this, but if we don't have the support of the budget of the borough on shoreline health, and if they don't see shoreline health as a top priority in town, then it's gonna be a very difficult
Yeah.
thing to accomplish.
Yeah, can I answer that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're 100% right, and I think part of the question is then like, if the borough council laid out their strategy, what would it look like? But it is true that if we kind of align on the strategy, because there has been times, probably many of us have been on a committee, we work on something, but then it goes to the borough council, but it's not a priority for them. So then it kind of dies, or it was not in the budget. Like, if somehow we all had the same kind of structure or framework, we'd at least have a path to kind of talk to each other, and then, like, also you guys could you would know what's important to them or not, so you'd know where to focus your energy.
Actions and energies.
And same thing with our committee, the Natural Area Committee, you know, if there's a higher goal, and we have 3 possible things to work on, we'll work on the one that relates to the higher goal. And that's how we get stuff done, right? Like, instead of 5 of us working on different things.
Right.
We'll align and get 2 done.
Yeah.
But it's a nice structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I think I'll have to think about how that is, because what I've seen their listed priorities in the past, recent past. There might be, the top 10 things might have nothing to do with.
Yeah.
Like our topics. And so we might have the 11th most important topic to them, or, you know, and is that still good enough?
And I just think because for some of us, like Gary and I, who've been on here for a while, Normandy Live in Tryon has been on there for years, since 2016, we've had these plans, and it's like. It comes to a point where, at what point can you, it's a priority to us, and we keep bringing it back on the agenda and then meeting, and then you have new council members, and you have a new administrator, and it's just. When does it become actionable?
Yeah, well, I think that's interesting too, like understanding the process of government, and it's almost like in corporate world, like there's like a sales funnel, right? And you've got all these great leads and ideas. But then like, how wide is the channel, like, of getting stuff done? So if it's a fixed group of, you know, Chris and the people that are paid to run the town, right? You kind of get into that narrow channel, like you gotta get in line. And so is De Normandy in the top 5 of the line? Is it in the top 50? Like, where is it in the next ball to be processed? So that's something I'm trying to understand too, how Chris works. And
Well, and also that meeting we had with, you know, Nick about it, being like, what, you know. What, not like all the different stakeholders, and there's a lot of people that don't feel the same way, obviously, we do. About it, but, you know, I just think, right, like our different priorities, we have shoreline health. What are the other priorities? Open space?
Christy, do you mind scrolling right back up the slide?
Thanks. Open space preservation, like. I mean, I'm curious, and then stormwater capture and sustainable property management, like how, where does those lists to, you know, from the borough standpoint, right? Is there any overlap? Are there something, I mean, maybe if, wow, okay, we're gonna, stormwater capture is our major priority, then we would focus right on those stormwater priorities, and that's maybe answering your question. Do we tackle one priority or one strategy from each priority? And I just would love to get feedback, from council as well, like from our, you know, people who are decision makers and approving agendas.
So are you saying, Kelly, after that conversation, these priorities, the numbers may change when we get a better sense of that?
Well, I mean, obviously. People on the environmental commission might think differently from our governing body, but depending on what the governing body says, yes, okay, this is where we have different pressures from other state coming down, et cetera, or from other things that we might want to focus. Our priority out of these 4, our number 1 out of these 4 is X, and so maybe you might want to prioritize that too, so we both work together and we can actually achieve more,
Right.
rather than. We're still gonna work on X. If you're gonna do A, good luck, but that's not gonna be our budget line. Right, or something like that. So it would be good to kind of have just an open discussion about, yeah, this aligns and we can work together, and this can, you know, it'd be great to have you guys help educate people on your end and do this while we do other things, and we can work together.
And that might be it, like,
Yeah.
and like we've seen from some of the other municipalities, like, do we come up with an incentivized program, like a point system, like if someone takes a driveway out and puts in impervious pavers, or if they put in rain barrels and capture, you know, like, I think that's where, right, just to your point, the borough spends dollars, they manage projects, but we have a different latitude. We can print things, we can hold events, like we can get out into the public, we can create like loyalty incentive programs that, like, just because we can, no one, you know, and so I think that's where it's, yes, we all agree that at the biggest level, doing better about capturing stormwater is important. You know, if we can agree, you know, borough dollars go this way, you know, EC Green Team, others are doing these things, then it looks like we're actually coordinated.
So, yeah.
On purpose, not by accident.
Right. Which we want to be a lot, you know, in that direction, not going a counter current, you know.
That would be the worst of
Right.
the options, yes.
Cause then we'd never get on the agenda, you never get the, you know, the feedback, the budget, so.
Well, and I think that's kind of the recognition is like a project like the Normandy, like. It's not on our plate anymore, it's a project, but is there opportunities for volunteers?
Mm.
Like a volunteer day to do, like, so the contractor's gonna bring in a bunch of soil. But we're gonna save money, we're gonna do the planting. Like, cool,
But do we know that that's happening?
we could do that, right? Like,
Right.
we could offer that as part of the
Sure,
process.
but my question is like, is that actually gonna happen?
And I'm saying it doesn't happen unless we
But it also doesn't happen unless
start asking.
it, right, we've been asking questions, but it also doesn't happen if the borough, if the council's like, we don't have budget for it. It's not our priority. You know, so there's that like,
Yeah, well, this one does have budget, so at least we have that.
we have that type, we have like
But it's,
70.
that's what I'm
that's it,
saying,
right.
it's more the
But,
funnel and
you know.
the narrow bandwidth of
Yeah,
the work.
so anyway, it'd be good to share, or I don't know how,
But this is good, I think this is
Yeah.
exactly what a document like this helps us tease out,
yeah, and so.
what's important.
You know, we always do a annual report at the council, every commission does. So perhaps you want to share this or this chart or one of them, you know, and say, this is where we're gonna move forward this year. And we'd love to have input or further discussion from the borough council on what might be, you know, where there's alignment, where we could be collaborators, you know, and you know, work together as a team on achieving some of these shared goals.
It's great, love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alright. So just kind of wrapping up this part, Gary, you have any comments or questions?
Sorry, no,
Thank you. So yeah, I think I'm fine, Susan, just kind of just thinking out loud here, to kind of go through all four and start to kind of build out that tree
Right.
structure and
Right.
start like plotting those projects against it, like we did for the example one. And continue to meet with the groups, like I said, I want to meet with the garden club as well. Once it's a little bit more formulated, I'll go back to everybody, I'll go back to Chris and Shade Tree, I'll go back to Carolyn, I'll go back to,
Also add an Navigant River, Municipalities Commission,
okay,
right, NRMC, because especially with stormwater, Robin is, O'Neill is one of our, the liaisons.
she's the liaison.
Mhm. Or not liaison, representative from Fairhaven. Because with shoreline health, stormwater, there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah, I would say the ideal would be to get another draft in front of everybody in January. And continue to talk through it into February and start to get to a point, like Gary put out, like we can start publishing it and saying like, this is what we're working towards this year and beyond, not just, you know, calendar year. Is this, since this is up, you know, is this part of our annual report from 2024? Like, is there much in here that we would want to? Susan, you're not even on this list, are you?
This was developed in 2023,
Right.
said what they wanted to do in
Okay,
2024.
before 24,
Yes,
okay. Okay,
that municipal water story. We'll push it over, that'll be your 2025.
Mhm.
There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
And you can see with the 2024 goals and 2025, what we discussed, you know, there's a lot of overlap, I think. So.
all right, been pretty collaborative. Any other questions or comments from the general public?
Oh, sorry, Paul, can I just say something real quick?
Sure.
I think, I just wanted to make sure that we gave a big thank you to Sarah and David Fischel, and Nativity Church and for doing our first, energy outreach, event that the green team put on November 21st. I know Paul and Carolyn came, Susan came. I think there was about 18 to 20 people outside of the green team, which was a good turnout for our first one on a Wednesday, night. It was, all recorded to, and it was on Zoom accessible. There was a couple people adding in from Zoom, but it was very informative on what Sarah and David have done to reduce their energy costs at their house with solar panels, EVs, and also, like their convection, stoves and other different things that they've been doing, and the rebates. There's a lot of information out there, and so it sparked some great conversations, questions, and we hope to do some more in the energy, and then some more outreach, overall with, amongst not just the Environmental Commission and the Green Team, but natural area, shade tree. I mean, I think that could be a good way to collaborate as well and to share information and resources, amongst all these groups that have aligned, focuses and goals and agendas. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you to David and Sarah for putting that on, and for Energy Research for being so gracious and letting us use their space
That's great.
and support, so. Thanks.
Is there a starting draft of like what the calendar for 2025 might look like?
No, no, we do not, but one of the Sustainable Jersey actions is a residential energy outreach, like event education for residential and for commercial energy. And I know I've spoken with our rep at JCP&L, that, and New Jersey Natural Cat, like they would come out and do some stuff as well too. So we were thinking of, it could be like what's available from the state to our residents and to our commercial areas, and then also having some input from, people like Sarah and David that are doing it, with what the do's and the don'ts of having done it. So we will try to put together some dates if anybody has any other ideas for great events. I know Little Silver just put on and they welcome everybody. They have the recycling. They have one coming up in January. Food waste, yeah, and these are all, ticket items for Sustainable Jersey, but they're also big, ideas and great things to learn about.
Mhm.
So I think it'd be good to have an education series. We did have some people that were from out of town too. We had some people from Rumson that came and some other ones. So it was it's just a great way to build that community outside of our Fairhaven network as well. So we will try to put together some ideas and dates, but if anyone has any, hey, I think there's a lot of buzz about this, or people want to know more about this, let us know.
Yes,
And it'd be good to collaborate on that.
yeah, and in the material that was up earlier, there's a whole section set for that needs to be, that I'd like to see built out. So like, if we've kind of got like a master calendar of in person or things that we're creating content for to share digitally, things we want to print out, when you guys do your cleanup, do we want to have a little bit of a campaign around, how do you clean up your yard? Things like that. Like, I think there's a great opportunity to kind of see it like kind of quarter by quarter, month by month, especially if we want to get more proactive with holding events
And
like
then-
the energy event.
Yeah, and then like, where does that presentation live, right? So people who miss it can go to see
Mhm.
it. And like, whether that's on our website or if that's like we've talked about that, like, or if it's like an off website, like, a link to another place that holds a lot of that information. Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Where, I was just gonna say, and maybe it doesn't need to be said, but going back to the strategic priorities thing, that, priorities are not fixed in stone, that conditions change, council members change, all those things. So to the extent your committee or our committee can drive those changes in the direction we're looking for, I think that should be part of this.
Agreed, thank you.
And through education. Right?
All right, open to public comment, any? I see a hand online.
Okay. Stephanie Adams? You're muted, there you go.
Hi, Stephanie Adams, 230 Oxford. Is there a plan for an environmental commission sort of building out, and I might have missed this, building out a more of a website, more of a page?
That's fine. Yeah, that'd be great. I think we'd have to, I think what we're trying to figure out is probably how we would organize it, like what would go on there, right? So we're kind of talking through priorities. Are those like the kind of topics that are important?
Rumson has a decent page. I don't know how often it gets updated, but they have sort of, it's linked to their borough website, and then it takes you to a separate Rumson Environmental Commission page, and then they house a lot of information and presentations and whatnot on it. So it might be a good place to look.
Yeah, right, Steph, totally. And that's why I just, my question of like, where does that presentation that Sarah and David do, where does that live? Where does some of that information live? And it's, sometimes I don't know if the borough website as is the best format for that.
Right. Well, and we've
yeah.
been talking about that and been hearing that the borough website was also going to be updated, but who knows when that's going to happen. And that's why I think the model that Rumson adopted, so it's linked to the borough website, but it's kind of a separate site. Because there's also a lot of stuff, that I see on Instagram or, like, okay, you left your leaves. Now what do you do in the spring? Like just kind of that information, like yard cleanup and what to do if you left your leaves and when to mow and all that kind of stuff. It'd be great if there was kind of a standalone site that could house that information for residents.
Yeah, if you haven't, anyone hasn't checked out the Rumson environmental site, it's good starting process, idea.
In
Yeah,
the meantime, anything you want posted to the borough website, just send to Betty and she put it on the EC page.
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Robin?
Robin O'Neill, 935 River Road. A lot of what you established in the strategic plan was really thrilling to me. I think that an EC representative needs to be considered in committees like the end of Fairhaven Road. That is a living, they should consider a living shoreline at the end of Fairhaven Road. Also, not just the De Normandy site. I also think that the Garden Club of Fairhaven, Bonnie and I are the conservation educators there, that we speak every month on tips for the for Fairhaven, and we also are running 2 projects. Our ulterior motive is to encourage people to plant native plants. One is we're partnering with the Audubon Society that is going to talk about the very rare Atlantic flyway that occurs in our area, and also with the master gardeners. And we're going to encourage, with the Atlantic flyway, we're going to encourage the Cornell app for people, kids, to get the schools involved so that we can start tracking birds in our own backyard. And the way that you can help to attract those birds is by planting food that they're looking for, which is native plants. Then we're going to have a mailbox garden competition, and that will be given by master gardeners. Now, they are Rutgers educated leaders, and the Garden Club of Fairhaven is working with them. Also, the Navesink River Municipals Committee, they really have it doesn't go a month doesn't go by at our meetings that we don't have some dismal information. And the water story, Kelly is correct. The water story is one that really needs to be formed as an educational piece for people to understand. Because in a lot of ways, month after month, when I hear the reports and I take, as you guys know, many of you have friends that in the area, we take water samples on a weekly basis for Clean Ocean Action. And we are also given those lab results. And a lot of the bad stuff is happening north and west of us. So that, we shake our heads and we say, well, what can we do in Fairhaven? And, the Clean Ocean Action answers and the Navasink River Municipalities Committee are saying we need storm water management. So that message can be elaborated in an educational sense and that information given to residents. I really think these strategies, as they've been laid out tonight, are very encouraging and very organized. And I think they are a framework that we can work with.
Thank you, Robin. I also think that perhaps we should, Rob, would you like have updates from the NRMC at our meetings? Monthly,
Yes,
like-
I think they should be,
Okay.
I don't think the public even knows that those services are happening for them.
But would you be able to, whether if you come to the meetings or if you can send in and share some, updates or minutes?
I will have to get permission to do that. I don't think that it has not been procedure up to date. So I definitely think that should be offered.
Well, we used to have updates every meeting from when Brian was our rep, the rep at the NRMC, so.
I'll make sure that happens.
Okay, thanks,
you.
even, just periodically, just so that we know and we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright.
Great, good updates. Anything else from our huge crowd? No?
Okay.
Yes, anything?
No.
Gary, good to go?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right, well, we're adjourned.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a great holiday season.
Yeah, you too.
Happy New Year.
Yep. Happy holidays.
Take it easy, Gary.